When we think about fairy tales, we usually think of magic castles and talking animals. But underneath all of that, there's this surprisingly strict code of justice. It's a world where punishments aren't just random. They're logical, they're poetic, and a lot of the time, they're self-inflicted. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that hidden logic. Let's get into it. Seriously, think about it. We all know how the stories end, but have you ever stopped to think about how they get there? What if happily ever after isn't just some magical fluke? What if it's the result of playing a game with a very specific hidden rule book, a set of rules that controls how that world works, whether the characters realize it or not?
So, what's in this rulebook? Well, at its core, it's a system of cause and effect. Your actions have direct, logical, and often deliciously ironic consequences. In these stories, being good or evil isn't just a moral choice, it's a strategic one. And as we're about to see, making the wrong move is pretty much a one-way ticket to disaster.
Okay, so let's start with the biggest, most fundamental law in the entire fairy tale universe. Greed is never rewarded. It's not just a character flaw, it's like a built-in self-destruct mechanism. The more you try to grab, the more you're guaranteed to lose. And oh boy, are these stories packed with examples to prove it.
And here we see two different flavors of the exact same poison. You've got King Midas, whose greed was just one single catastrophic wish. The result was instant and totally devastating on a personal level. He couldn't even eat his own food. But then you have the fisherman's wife. Her greed was the creeping kind. It just kept escalating. Each wish just fed the next one, this bottomless hunger for more and more power. And this is the moment it all goes wrong. When the poor fisherman has to go back to the magic flounder and say his wife now wants to be king, it's just stunningly arrogant. She's not just asking for stuff anymore. She's demanding ultimate power. And in the world of fairy tales, that is a line you just do not cross. The universe has to perform a hard reset, and boy does it, sending her right back to the dirty hovel where she started. So, if the villains are all trapped by their own greed, how do the heroes win? Well, they're set free by their cleverness. You see, in these stories, it is almost never brute strength that saves the day. It's the hero's ability to outthink their opponents, to find a clever way out of what looks like an impossible situation. It's all about empowering the underdog. Okay, so take the story of the court tailor and his rival, this really malicious shoemaker. The shoemaker is just eaten up with jealousy, so he goes to the king and starts setting these impossible traps. He boasts that the tailor can do anything, even recreate the entire palace down to the last detail completely out of wax. And the king, loving the idea, makes it an order. And here's where the wit just shines. The tailor doesn't even try to do the impossible task. Instead, he thinks way outside the box. He uses nature itself to solve the problem. He gets a whole swarm of bees, and in one day, they build a perfect, intricate honeycomb palace, way better than any human could have made. He didn't overpower the problem. He completely outsmarted it. That's the hero's signature move. And this wasn't just a one-time thing. The jealous shoemaker kept setting these insane traps, and the tailor just kept gracefully sidestepping them with pure brainpower. From finding a lost crown to making water appear in a dry courtyard, he turned every single trap into another victory for him. Each one was meant to be his downfall, but his wit turned it into another win. But maybe the most satisfying rule in this whole fairy tale playbook is this. The villains are almost always the architects of their own doom. Their punishment isn't just given to them. No, it's built piece by piece from their own cruelty, their own words, and their own twisted logic. The story of the Goose Girl is the absolute perfect example. So you've got a true princess who's betrayed by her treacherous waiting maid. The maid steals everything, the princess's identity, her talking horse, her place next to the prince, and forces the real princess to work as a common goose girl. Now, the old king, he's clever. He knows something isn't right. So he comes up with this brilliant plan. He doesn't just accuse the fake bride. Instead, he tells her a story about someone who betrayed their master. And he asks her what punishment a traitor like that deserves. He makes her the judge in her own case. And this is exactly where her own cruelty becomes the trap. She has no idea she's passing judgment on herself. And she comes up with this just horrifically gruesome sentence. She says the traitor should be dragged through the streets in a barrel studded with nails until she's dead. And then the king delivers that devastating reply. With those simple words, the trap just snaps shut. The villain's own judgment, born from her own vicious mind, becomes her inescapable fate. I mean, justice doesn't get more poetic than that. She literally built her own prison, and the king just handed her the key.
But hey, poetic justice doesn't always have to be so complicated. Sometimes it's a lot more direct, like what we see with a thieving innkeeper. This one is less about mind games and more about good old-fashioned instant karma.
So here's how it all goes down. First, this greedy innkeeper steals a magical donkey that, well, produces gold coins. A classic fairy tale heist. The hero, the donkey's real owner, eventually comes back, but he doesn't bring an army for revenge. He just has a plain old sack. So that night, when the innkeeper sneaks in to steal this new treasure, the hero is waiting for him.
And with that simple command, bam, the trap is sprung. A magical club jumps out of the sack and just gives that innkeeper the beating of a lifetime. It doesn't stop until he agrees to return everything he ever stole. It's simple, it's direct, and it fits the crime perfectly. The thief's own greed literally triggered his own punishment.
So why do we keep telling these stories? What is it about this specific system of justice, where greed always fails, wit always wins, and evil basically eats itself? Why does that resonate with us so much, century after century?
Well, I think it really boils down to a few key things. First, there's a real clarity to it all, right? Good gets rewarded, evil gets punished. Simple. Second, there's just a deep, deep satisfaction in seeing the bad guys get what's coming to them, especially when they cause it themselves. Third, it's empowering. We love seeing heroes win with their brains. And finally, it gives us a sense of order. In our own chaotic world, fairy tales present a universe that, even with all its magic, follows rules that feel fundamentally fair and just. And that kind of leaves us with one last thought. Our world is rarely this black and white, right? Justice can be messy, and the rules are often blurry. But maybe that's exactly why we still need these stories. Maybe they're a reminder of this simple, elegant logic we kind of wish our own world would follow a little more closely.